dear viewers, and welcome to a new edition of our program Africa Today. In today's edition, we are dedicating our episode to shed light on the important visit by President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi, the first visit by an Egyptian president to the Iraqi capital Baghdad in 30 years, where he participated in a three-way conference with the Jordanian monarch and the Iraqi president. To shed more light on that very important visit by President el-Sisi, we are very much delighted to have with us over the phone Ambassador Gamal Bayoumi, former Assistant Foreign Minister. Ambassador Bayoumi, good afternoon to you, sir.
Good afternoon. How are you?
How are you, sir? Ambassador Bayoumi, how do you see the timing of the conference which is taking place in Baghdad?
Very important to everybody and to me personally, because I worked on the same file 30 years ago, because we established in the 80s the Arab Economic Council between Egypt, Jordan, Iraq, and Yemen. Now Yemen is not in good health, so we continue with Iraq and Jordan.
Yeah.
Of course, Iraq spent 30 years in suffering from wars, from American occupation, from Turkish occupation of the north part of Iraq, many internal problems between different parties and different factions, terrorism, many things. And now, thank God that Iraq is coming back slowly but surely to establish one unified government, one unified country, under one unified flag. This is very important to us.
Indeed.
Because Iraq is not any country. It is one of the most important Arab countries.
Of course.
Egypt, Syria, and Iraq are the strongest armies in the area. Iraq is not a poor country at all. It has its oil wealth also.
Of course.
And I think Iraq, if they concentrate on their country with the help of their brother Arab countries also, we shall reach a very good result of such a cooperation.
Yes,
and
indeed.
Thank God that we have plenty of files ready to just to have a look and to implement. We have a big community of Egyptians living in Iraq and working in many fields. Iraq is a very wealthy country concerning agriculture, and the whole Arab world have a gap of food in the Arab world.
Yes.
And here is the Egyptian migrants are doing a very important role to help the agriculture sector in Iraq.
Yes.
Also, we are keen to help the neighbor countries such as Syria or Lebanon to be in a better situation, to be able to join us in such a gathering, which is very important. And the sky is the limit in a file like that.
Yes.
Many fields are ready for cooperation between the three countries.
Yeah.
We have a good community, also Egyptian community in Jordan, and the right of movement. Here we are stressing on the right of movement, because in the Arab world we are successful in trade, in commodities, in trade and services. Still, the right of movement is not in good situation. We want an Egyptian or an Arab, whenever he reach an Arab airport or Arab port, to feel that he is much welcome than any other nationality. We didn't yet reach this. We have liberalized the movement of money and investment, the movement of services. Still, we have to stick to ameliorate the situation for the individual citizen to feel that he can travel from Baghdad to Casablanca without any obstacle.
Yes,
and this you can see in a similar community like the European community. Always they say, if you drive your car from Madrid till in the west to Bucharest in the east, you will never see any soldier. The borders are totally open. We want to make this valid and available in the Arab world, and this will create much more interest to the whole Arab community. And here we are talking about Egypt, Iraq, and Syria. This will be one of a very good result we are waiting for.
Yes. Indeed.
Also, I want to stress that Egypt, Iraq, and Jordan are members of what we call the Arab Free Trade Area, where we have dismantled all the custom duties and all the trade barriers.
Yes.
And I think many businessmen do not know this reality that they can export to Iraq without any trade barriers or custom duties. Now we are talking about re-establishing the Iraqi economy and to rehabilitation of Iraq, because many Iraqi sectors were destroyed. Now we have some building companies are working in Iraq, and we hope to make more efforts in order to help Iraq to rehabilitate its country and the economy, and to re-establish whatever was destroyed in its buildings also. This is a long story, and I think it can be a story of success among the Arab world, and especially those three main countries.
Yes, indeed. Ambassador Bayoumi, actually, how do you weigh the level of ties between Cairo, Amman, and Baghdad?
Sorry?
How do you weigh the level of ties between Cairo, Amman, and Baghdad?
It is very important. It's really very.
Yes.
It is very important because here we are talking about a sort of harmonized leadership.
Yes.
The context between the leaders, especially His Royal Highness the King of Jordan and our president, they are always in good context. Now we are adding the new leadership of Iraq. As a diplomat, always I say that we have tools for the foreign affairs and the diplomacy.
Yes.
Missions and ambassadors are our first tool. Then we have the ministerial level. But we, for the last 20 years, we lack the most important weapon of our diplomacy, which was the presidency. The presidency level and the summit meetings, we lacked this for 20 years.
Yes.
Now, thank God that we have a very active president who went last year very far to the east to Tokyo, then very far to the west in Paris, then another time in the same month to Tokyo for another occasion.
Yes.
He went to New York several times. He made 40 meetings in 5 days in New York.
Yes.
Then to the south in the African Union, where we led the African Union, then to Moscow, then to Peking, name it. And I am proud as a diplomat that Cairo is one capital with the most represented foreign embassies anywhere in the world. We have many embassies, and the largest embassy of America is in Cairo. The largest embassy of Arabia Saudi is in Cairo, the Emirates. So this shows us that we make a sort of success to create interest between Egypt and most of the countries of the world.
Yes. Ambassador Bayoumi, actually the meeting in Baghdad today is part of the fourth round of the tripartite cooperation mechanism that kick-started in March 2019. How has the mechanism impacted the cooperation between the three capitals until now?
It is very important because it covers from day to day the development in many fields. Of course, I would expect also a sort of another level, which is a ministerial level. The foreign ministers, ministers of trade, ministers of industry, and so on.
Yes.
And I want to tell you that by that time of the 80s, we have 44 agreements between the four countries.
Yes.
So that was a result of very good contact between the presidential level, then the ministerial level.
Yes.
And it must be take place every now and then, twice a year or 4 times a year, even. It depends on the engagements.
Yes.
And this, of course, will make a sort of follow-up committees in order to make sure that everything is in place and that all the projects are being done in time and in the best quality we expect from such cooperation.
Indeed, Ambassador Gamal Bayoumi, former Assistant Foreign Minister, always a pleasure to have you with us. Many thanks, sir. And moving on, where Cairo said Egypt's infrastructure and medical capabilities are ready to support the African vaccine manufacturing initiative. This statement was made during an AU meeting at the weekend. More details.
Cairo expressed keenness to secure the rollout of coronavirus vaccines across Africa, whether via its current efforts to locally produce vaccines in Egypt or by participating in the African Union initiative to jointly manufacture vaccines. Addressing the African Union Bureau meeting on Thursday, Madbouli said Egypt has reached a deal to produce COVID-19 vaccines locally and seeks to share the benefits of this deal with African countries. 2 million doses of the Chinese Sinovac vaccine are being produced in Egypt through the production lines of the country's drug maker Vaxera, as part of a wider deal with the Chinese company to produce a total of 40 million doses in Egypt by the end of 2021. Cairo is also in talks to locally manufacture the British AstraZeneca vaccine, saying it plans to make Egypt a manufacturing vaccine hub for Africa after meeting local needs. Madbouli praised the Partnership for African Vaccine Manufacturing initiative launched by the AU in April, saying Egypt's infrastructure and medical capabilities are ready to support the initiative. The initiative, which was launched in April, comes as the rollout of COVID-19 vaccines across Africa is facing delays. Less than 2% of the 690 million COVID-19 vaccine doses administered globally have been in Africa, where most countries received vaccines only 5 weeks ago and in small quantities, according to a report released by the World Health Organization in April.
Egypt announced health projects and agreements with South Sudan, Djibouti and Rwanda. The announcement came after Egyptian ambassador to Rwanda signed a memorandum of understanding to build an Egyptian center for heart surgeries in the Rwandan capital, Kigali. Samah Sharif reports.
The Egyptian Ministry of Foreign Affairs announced the establishment of a malaria control project in South Sudan to be funded by the ministry's Agency of Partnership for Development. The announcement came after Egyptian ambassador to Rwanda, Ahmed Al-Ansari, signed on June 11 a memorandum of understanding to build an Egyptian center for heart surgeries in the Rwandan capital, Kigali. The Egyptian Foreign Ministry said the center, which is the first of its kind in East Africa, would provide treatment for cardiovascular diseases, especially among children, training for medical staff and nurses, and biomedical research. During the signing ceremony, Ansari said Egypt is keen on developing the healthcare sector in Rwanda and providing all kinds of support driven by its commitment toward African countries. He expressed hope such moves would promote cooperation in the health sector, especially in relation to medications and medical supplies. Observers say these projects are part of efforts to serve the African continent and restore Cairo's role and standing in the continent. Rakha Hassan, a former assistant foreign minister and member of the Egyptian Council for Foreign Affairs, says the implementation of medical projects in some African countries and the provision of specialized health services to African citizens help promote their relations with Egypt at the popular and official levels. Hassan added some African countries are in dire need of these medical projects, whether it is in Rwanda or South Sudan.
Egypt remained the largest recipient of foreign direct investment in Africa last year, despite the coronavirus pandemic. This statement was made by the UN Conference on Trade and Development. More details in the following story.
The UNCTAD said in its World Investment Report 2020 that the foreign direct investments in Egypt were estimated at $5.9 billion in 2020. According to the latest report, the COVID-19 pandemic had a significant impact on foreign direct investment in Africa, as flows to the continent declined by 16% in 2020 to $40 billion from $47 billion in 2019. Cascading economic and health challenges due to the pandemic, combined with low prices of energy commodities, weighed heavily on foreign investment to the continent. The report showed that commodity-dependent countries were affected more severely than non-resource-based economies. Greenfield project announcements, a measure of investor sentiment and future FDI trends, dropped by 62% to $29 billion from $77 billion in 2019. Cross-border mergers and acquisitions, M&As, fell by 45% to $3.2 billion from $5.8 billion in 2018. International project finance announcements, especially relevant for large infrastructure projects, plummeted by 74% to $32 billion.
Well, with that, our dear viewers, we come to the end of this edition of Africa Today, brought to you live from our studios here on Nile TV International. I'm Aisha Rabia signing off. Many thanks for watching.